Nifty Culture. Welcome, everybody. How are you guys doing today?
Happy 4th of July weekend, man. It's crazy to be doing a stream this weekend, but there's a lot to cover. So we said, you know what? We got a few minutes. Let's hop on and talk about some of the things we weren't able to cover last night and over this week.
And I feel that I've been out of the mix. You guys got to give me kind of the summary, all this fun stuff. I've been in the VeVe mode. So you guys got to tell me what else has been going on.
Dude, that's what the stream's about today. We're talking about the transition to VeVe.
Right? Great Scott!
Yeah, so that's a great intro, man. Yeah. So,
great Scott!
So we've been talking about how the market's been maturing, right? A lot of our conversations have been about market cycles and where we're at in the collectibles and the art space. And, you know, is there still time as a flipper to make money and where this thing is all going long term? And one of the things that's been on my mind quite a bit that hasn't been talked about on the channel is, when do the NFT projects, the folks that are actually minting these NFTs, when do they start looking at layer 2 scaling solutions? And there's this.
What do you mean? What do you mean to that layer 2 scaling solutions? Because as now, I mean, I see it being rolled out like on the Nifty Gateway. What's going to be better? What's different?
So let's back it up just so everybody knows. One thing that's constantly pops up on stream is gas fees. So the reason that the gas fees are so high on Ethereum's mainnet is because basically you're competing for block space. So for NFTs, you know, digital artwork has to compete with the big DeFi buzzword. And, you know, DeFi is something that, you know, I talked to Malachi about this. I'm going to be doing just some basic primer videos once a week. I'll pick a different DeFi project. And I feel like, you know, I live and breathe the space. I spend a lot of time in it. And then I basically communicate with people that are living and breathing the space. And I don't realize there's a ton of folks that don't know what DeFi is, even though it's like second nature to me. I feel like everybody should know what it is at this point. But, you know, I was with a group of people the other day and I was talking about some projects and they looked at me like, you mean Bitcoin? And I was like, no, I'm not talking about Bitcoin. No. So I'm like, okay, so we got to, you know, I told Malachi we'd do a little bit. I'm going to leverage the channel a little bit and talk about, you know, the applications that are coming out. And, you know, hopefully our viewers will grow their knowledge base and understand why the gas fees are so high. Okay, so there's a lot of activity on Ethereum. And yeah, so the NFTs are just a small segment of what's going on in Ethereum. Most of the transaction activity is revolved around a brand new financial infrastructure that's being built. Okay, and so like I said, I'll go over that. And so you have these high gas fees because everybody wants to participate. And, you know, at some point, the NFT market, the NFT society has got to say, is layer 1 realistically somewhere where we can launch our projects? And so, you know, if you talk to some altcoiners or folks that, you know, are looking at other smart contract platforms, they'll tell you, no, for sure not. They've got to come to our chain. But the truth is that's not the natural progression that's probably most likely to unfold. What's likely to unfold is people will transition from layer 1 of Ethereum to layer 2. And why is that? So we talked about this briefly on a stream, I don't know, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, where we were talking about the problem with NBA Top Shots was they launched on Flow. Okay. The whole point of a blockchain and ownership is self-sovereignty without third party, what's the term, where you don't have to trust a third party. Okay. So with Flow, essentially what you're doing is you're launching onto, Top Shot's launched onto a chain that's no better than a database. So if one day the people behind Flow decide to say, oh, we're gone, all the money that you spent on these NBA moments disappears, right? So how is that any better than a centralized server? You don't really own it because you can't move it anywhere. You're relying on a third party to continue to validate the network. And so you have Flow is just one example. There's lots of other folks out there that are launching NFTs on, for example, Binance Smart Chain. You saw a bunch of punk derivatives go over there. The problem with Binance Smart Chain is all the validators are controlled by CZ Binance. So again, you have third party risk. So if you really want to, you know, take full advantage of the blockchain and, you know, you actually want to custody the asset yourself, you want to actually own the piece of art, or at least what points to the ownership of the art, then you've got to be on a completely decentralized blockchain. And the only one right now that has any sort of traction is Ethereum. So
and so when you're saying flow is its own blockchain.
That's right. So flow is go ahead.
And you can't get any exposure to that. There's no coins of flow. It's just using the flow technology to build the NBA Top Shot platform.
You can buy flow.
You can buy flow. Flow is on.
You can buy flow.
Yeah, you can.
We can't actually. It's restricted in the United States or in Texas.
What good would it be, John, to have flow token then? If you were to bet on NBA Top Shot, would you do that if you thought it was going to be good in the future? Which, of course, I don't, because I want decentralized, and that's where the value's at. But
yeah.
So would you hedge flow?
So no. So I haven't been a fan of it. I know I have huge respect for Cuban. He's very involved in NBA Top Shots for obvious reasons, and they picked flow because I think at the time there wasn't a great scaling option on the mainnet. But to hold flow tokens now, you're really banking on you're banking on a third party to essentially one day give up control of the blockchain and redo their consensus mechanism and give control to the community. And that's a really big gamble when you start having corporate interest and shareholders involved. So for me, I don't own flow tokens. I understand why people do, because they could eventually, the powers that be could determine that flow token holders get a cut of the centralized blockchain, and then you're making money, and so it becomes just a regular investment. But to actually, my view is maybe early on the market doesn't know enough, and they will, like right now, very few people know what flow really is, right? So people will hop on there and be like, oh, it's an NFT. It's just like, CryptoPunks, and I'm going to own it. And I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to custody it, but the truth of the matter is no, you're not, right? That's not really what's going on that blockchain. And so, eventually the market will wise up, something will happen, and it will trigger kind of a return to fundamentals where it all started. And that's back onto Ethereum. With things like CryptoKitties, where you actually have a layer one blockchain that nobody controls and nobody can. It's self-sovereign. I mean, your assets are yours, and that's I think again, CZ Binance with Binance Smart Chain and others. There's all sorts of varying degrees of decentralization, but at the end of the day, full decentralization happens on Ethereum, and the people will eventually come back, and they will pay a premium to come back because if you're gonna, like, again, it all goes back to, if you want the asset to be yours, you've got to actually pay for it to be yours. So, and
there's no way of going from flow and migrating over unless they just give up everything you said.
Not right now. Now there's creative ways they can go about doing it. People can build these bridges that basically will mint a replica on Ethereum when you deposit your flow version onto their bridge. Okay, and then you have the replica on Ethereum, but then that goes back to, what happens on the main chain if that main chain disappears and you only have the replica there from now on. So you could potentially migrate back to Ethereum that way. I mean, that's a probability, but I mean,
that's interesting. Why you think? I mean, would Mark not want to look at that? I mean, Mark's a true decentralized guy. Do you believe?
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
He sees that.
Yeah, for sure. Mark is like a pioneer, man. If you looked at Mark's wallet, I mean, he's diving into,
of course,
rugs and scams, and it's amazing. He's a pioneer and experimenter.
Do you think that the NBA Top Shot was already started way before, and that whole idea came so far? Then he found out about NFTs, so the project was already way down the road. He couldn't have steered it in any way at that time.
Yeah, I mean, so it's because at the time there was no option on Ethereum. When Flow was in development, keep in mind, these guys, I think, were behind CryptoKitties, so they saw the network just grind to a screeching halt. In fact, Malachi talked about it the other day, and Danny was on talking about how Ethereum's got a serious problem if a NFT launch can just bring the network down, right? And essentially what you have bots. Go ahead, Mally. You can
the Bulls project. So when he thought about the demons launched right before the bulls, and it created a spike in gas prices, and then everyone is excited for the bulls, and the bulls ahead of time had told people to adjust their gas prices to make sure that there's going to be this competition. And so gas prices actually temporarily spiked for some people above 1 ETH. So like it's insane how 10,000 people trying to use Ethereum simultaneously, not even 10,000 people, but trying to push that many transactions through within a very short time just puts Ethereum to a crawling pace.
So is that why we saw the same thing with VeFriends? John, is that same type of thing?
Likely, yeah.
The gas spike. Are you talking about
just a launch? Yeah, just a launch of a large NFT project can affect the entire ecosystem with better fees like that.
Yeah, because
dude.
Well, here's the deal. If you look at how Ethereum is constructed and how gas works, it's basically an auction. All right, it's an auction system.
Right,
so
for computing time.
For computing, right? So you want for the block space, you want to get in, you want to get your transaction in. And so if everybody knows that the winner has the highest gas fee to get in, if you want to secure your spot, what do? You're all in on gas. And so the next person knows that. And all of a sudden you have tons of transactions that have super high gas fee. Okay. And the rest of the network is still doing normal transactions. So if you want to do a regular operation on Ethereum, if you want to move through, you got to pay with the highest bidders. The congestion is making you pay. So there's only so much block space. And so this is what the guys at behind CryptoKitties looked at. They said, how can we have a sustainable project? And so the quickest, dirtiest, and easiest way is to basically centralize the blockchain, right? I mean, there's nothing else on it. And you can set fees and whatever you want. You don't need real security if you're the guys that are in control. And so throughput is not an issue. I mean, you can have as much speed as you want. And so that's kind of what's happening with Flow, right? So Mark looked at it and said, we can either launch Top Shots on Ethereum and suffer this problem, or we can go over to Flow. And that's kind of, what the landscape looked like then.
But Flow didn't even work because there was so much demand. Like if you think about how many people were in line for Top Shots, it was like 200,000 people entering to buy these Top Shot NFTs, right? So like Flow didn't even work at the time. And so when we interviewed Mark Cuban earlier this year, he was very vague, but we asked him about the scale issues with Dapper and Flow, and I think his answer speaks for itself. But I think at the time the challenge wasn't just it was all of them. And if you think about 10,000 NFTs versus 100,000 NFTs on Flow, I think that it paints a much different picture. I think that they were trying to do what's right for their customer base, and it didn't work out. And that's why we're seeing a lot of these alternate options start testing out, like the VeVe drop with the cover, the Series 2 cover girls for DC Comics moving back to Immutable X, which is exciting in its own right because they admitted defeat and they're moving all the NFTs back to an Ethereum-based platform.
Yeah.
So VeVe was Immutable X, and then it went.
No, so VeVe was they built their own on the Omni chain. I think that's what it was, Mal, right? And the token for them was OMI.
OMI, right.
Yeah. And so, I looked at buying OMI, but then I thought, man, this is Flow blockchain all over again. And I'm like, this isn't the way to do it, right? If you want real ownership, you got to have a decentralized network. And so when VeVe made the announcement that they're moving to Immutable X, that was kind of like the eureka moment for me. I'm like, these guys as a project need more exposure because they are doing everything right. Their interface is so slick. Yeah, they were getting a little congestion and bogged down, but they're leading the space in the 3D models. I saw Rob, you got some stuff maybe you can showcase later on. That's just awesome.
I love it. No, I love it. I love what they're doing, and they have the actual licensing deals, which makes it that much more concrete for me.
Yeah,
makes it concrete.
Yeah, I'm at the point after looking at NFTs, I don't look at them as much as you guys do. I've spent a lot of time in the DeFi world, but based on what I've seen so far, there are some industry standouts, and the guys at Larva Labs, obviously industry standouts, and the VeVe guys. I mean, moving back to Ethereum and being basically one of the pioneers in on layer 2 on a layer 2 scaling solution, Immutable X. This is the trend I expect the rest of the NFTs, the responsible ones, and I think as collectors and curators and NFT culture, for example, as people that we interface with artists on a regular basis, we're going to have to really start preaching responsibility to the blockchain, right? So you shouldn't at this point, with things like Immutable X existing, be launching NFTs on layer 1, in my mind. Now, there might be something technical that I'm missing. I'm open in the comments if anybody has any ideas or reasons it can't be done. But from what I've seen so far on Immutable X, everything that you can do on the mainnet, you can do on Immutable X, and you get all the properties, all security properties of Ethereum. And again, it's kind of the responsible thing going forward that I think all projects, especially ones that I look to invest in, and I hope that we as a group and our viewers, we start to promote and push these guys looking to launch. Say, hey, it's great you can launch, but nobody wants to pay $35 or $50 in gas fees. Have you considered Immutable X? There is a better way, and it's up to you guys to use it, to utilize it.
So is Immutable X layer 2?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? That's a layer 2 Ethereum.
Yes, it's a scaling solution for Ethereum. Yeah.
Okay. And it has benefits of being environmentally conscious and some of those other things. I'm not an expert on it, but
I'll just talk. Really quickly, all they're really saying there is that they're stuffing a ton of transactions, into each block. And so if you look at, the power needed, if you really break it down per block, it's much more energy friendly than computations. Exactly. It's more efficient computations on layer 1. Now, when Ethereum moves to proof of stake, then, everything on main chain will be much more energy efficient. But that's a whole nother energy efficient. It's another topic for another time. We can talk about that. But, that's what makes it more efficient.
Yeah. So what's really interesting for me, and we can double click down in Immutable X if people are interested. But what's really interesting for me is a comment that you made about having the rights, Rob, about the fact that they got the licensing agreement early with DC Comics, and we all bought our Batman, and then they got the licensing agreement with Universal, and we're excited for the future Jurassic Park drops. What else is interesting is simultaneously when DC Comics is heading towards VeVe, they're also sending a cease and desist to what we assume, we're alleging that they likely got a cease and desist because around the time the Zack Snyder cut of the new movie was coming out, Justice League, they canceled the Boss Logic drop on Nifty Gateway ahead of time. So we're assuming that there was some sort of cease and desist or something else. They also sent guidance to all of their freelance artists that they are no longer allowed to create NFTs with any of the IP that's in DC Comics. Today, we have Marvel just announced recently that they're heading to VeVe as well. So massive things. But what's really interesting is look at this piece by Vex on Nifty Gateway. No longer available. We suspect that this was that SpongeBob NFT, which is Nickelodeon, which is Viacom, and now this piece is no longer available. And we talked with Mark Cuban via email about what's going to happen with a lot of these IPs in the future. And he alleged that there's going to be burn notices just like there were in the early days of the internet. And he hoped that because we're so early that there was forgiveness. I don't want to speculate what went on here. That in the back end, people are guessing some of the stuff that went on. But we think that in the near future, these massive corporations are going to be much more protective of their IP and all the likeness. As Pokemon, Nintendo, all these companies enter the space, of course they're going to want to protect that. So
it's the gold mine.
Yeah, so the licensing is really what's interesting about VeVe, because people can really go buy those NFTs and use them in AR, VR. So it's really interesting just to see all of this coming full circle. In just over 3 months, we're already seeing a lot of these predictions that Mark Cuban made coming true.
So that makes me feel like I need to go sell all the Batman and stuff like that I have from Nifty Gateway drops, all my Jose Dalbo stuff.
Dude, I don't know. The illicit stuff sometimes worth more in the end, right? As long as you can get it onto the main chain Ethereum, it's yours, bro. So you hold on.
I did. I have them.
Okay,
so
good.
They're yours.
And
okay,
we're
good.
Speculating where, did they remove it from IPFS? I'm not an expert on how Nifty Gateway manages their contracts. Hopefully Mike can come on in the near future and say, do they have their own IPFS like system that they're hosting the information on? Because if that's the case, then they could have to respond to that, where the decentralization of IPFS has its own benefits, and if it's on net on the main chain. It's more, it's more protected in these instances. And I'm just not an expert. I can't go into that. So I think we need to follow up with Mike.
Hey, real quick, Rob, you mentioned all the stuff that you bought from Nifty Gateway. Have you moved it off? Have you moved it onto your?
No.
See,
no,
you have to be
it's
careful
sitting
because
there.
I'm sure the wallet that Nifty Gateway controls. I'm not really sure how the interface works. I just spent a lot of time on it.
Everything's in the it's called the Omnibus wallet.
Is it custodial or is it non-custodial? That's the question. Because if it's like, for example, Coinbase is a custodial wallet, right? So you make trades and you can move it to the mainnet, but Coinbase actually controls your wallet.
It is custodial.
So if it's custodial, I would recommend, especially with this stuff popping up, I would recommend pulling your assets off and transitioning to the main chain, because once they're on the main chain, they're yours. Mm-hmm. Once they're in your wallet, they're yours. Right. But if they're still on Nifty Gateway's wallet, man, be careful. Because if litigation,
because they have control, because they'll have control, they can do something.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, this isn't Nifty Gateway's fault. This is an immature market becoming mature. I think this isn't like don't buy. I think Nifty Gateway's done an amazing job at balancing out everything that they've been focusing on and really changing how they're doing drops and everything else. I'm a huge fan of everything that they're working on. So I think that I don't want this to be a slight in any way of anything that they're doing. But it is just something to be cognizant of if you're investing in the space. But even when you think about buying NFTs from Maker's Place or anywhere else, just know that if you're buying a likeness of a protected property, you definitely want to be cognizant of some of those risks moving forward.
Sorry about that, guys. Y'all might pick some background noise here.
I did want to share on my hoverboards, though, guys. It is so cool. I'm telling you, the stuff that they're dropping on VeVe is so much fun. Look at that. Who doesn't want Marty McFly's hoverboard?
Yeah, shout out to Various.
That's so sick.
He's
right?
Well, real quick, Various, I just put the link in the Master Brews, and he's like, I had a dream about Back to the Future last night. This must be meant to be. And then you think about this, that piece. Oh, keep it up. I wanted to keep looking at it.
All right, here you go. I got something better for you.
So here, while Rob's pulling that up, there's a piece of this that I'm curious about that I haven't looked at, but I intend to, and maybe some other VeVe followers. Does anybody know what's going to happen to the OMI token now that it's on Immutable X? Do the token holders, are their rights changing at all, or have they been promised anything? If you have an answer to that, shoot it in the comments. Otherwise, I'll probably research and follow back up.
I bet they remint all the NFTs on Immutable X. That's what I'd suspect happens.
See, look how fun that is. Look how fun that is, right?
Yeah.
Next step is the shoes. I want to get Marty McFly's auto tying Nikes. That would be the best. And I think they are going to drop those. They're going to have multiple versions of the shoes you can get.
Well, didn't Nike release some real life self-lacing shoes?
I think they made them. And then the CEO tried them on and said, okay, thank you, and walked out with them.
Oh, nice.
But there was dropped, I think there was 4 or 5 hoverboards that they dropped. And so when they first dropped, that was $19. It went all the way up to $89 and then went back down to $16. So I bought it for $16. Now they're up to around $80 again.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What's really interesting about these drops is the scale. People think oh, it's such a small community. NFTs is just 10,000 people trading NFTs between themselves. The Frank Kozik, who's an artist, had an NFT drop a couple days ago, and we actually wrote an article on it. But their PR team candidly reached out to us, and because we're big fans of VeVe, we were like, yeah, of course, we'll talk about it. Not talk about it, but write an article. Talking about it here is just voluntary. But what's interesting to think about is that these drops, they're dropping, 3,800 of each, 2,800 of each. And then you think about the other drops that have been going on. So the DC Cover Girls, for instance, I didn't get in this, but when you look at it, at $40, they're dropping $13,800 of Batgirl, $10,000 of Catwoman for $50 retail, and these things are spiking in the secondary market. You have to buy them on eBay, etc. But if you think about just how big these mints are, and a lot of the collectors that are able to buy it from their iPhone or their Android device, they can fund it with their Apple Pay wallet, and they're buying real NFTs. It's really interesting to think about how our little small community focuses on, 10,000 drops is way too many. But we clearly see that they're dropping 40,000 NFTs, for these types of drops, and they're all selling out.
Yeah, but these are $19.99. These are $16.99.
True.
Not ferocious, not $2,000.
Yeah. Yeah, and their market, I think their market's just much bigger.
And there's proven history to these projects. Proven deep value.
Yeah.
Already.
There's already collectors.
Not some guys like, look at me, I'm selling you this. It's super cool. $2,000.
Yeah. And like I was saying, there's already collectors, that are this is another piece in their collection. It's not like brand new starting a collection of digital art. These guys have been collecting DC stuff for decades, and this is the newest way they can participate in collecting DC stuff.
What's really interesting is how will this translate into the metaverse? So if I'm in Decentraland or Sandbox,
I'm rolling on my hoverboard, bro.
Yeah, but think about when VeVe is okay, you can put your Batman into Sandbox or Decentraland. You could put your Slimer or your DeLorean, and you can open the door. And you can have your little trap going off. There's so much cool stuff going on right now with these projects. It's really cool just to see this is still completely early. When Pokemon comes in and Pokemon Will, we've talked about Pokemon a lot. When Pokemon Go turns into NFTs and you can level up your Pikachu and give them different traits, and then there's a marketplace that you can have Series 1 level 13 Pikachu and put that on the marketplace, and people are like, oh, cool. Instead of starting fresh the Pikachu, I could buy one, and it's all on the blockchain. It's going to be wild, and we're headed there quicker than everyone thinks.
Let me tell you, I just checked because I'm always checking on the secondary market in the VeVe app. The Superman was $60 on the secondary. It's now $380.
It's funny. If they price it in ETH, I think it'll sell out quicker. When I look at fiat prices on Nifty Gateway, I'm like, oh, that's too expensive. But then I go and spend $500 nonstop on OpenSea speculating on these crazy wizard projects and everything else. So it's my mind doesn't translate fiat and ETH really well, but I think in ETH when I'm on these Ethereum-based marketplaces and platforms. And so I'm curious to see if more of these projects start experimenting with those types of things as it reaches more maturity.
Maybe, but the VeVe is just such a seamless platform. It brings in a large scale audience. They have it's easy, onboarding and scale right to it, man.
But dude, think about
it's so slick.
But what if Apple Pay started letting you buy Ethereum, or they in the future where that would be the ultimate flex? I know all the megacorps are shy about crypto, but imagine if you could buy and store crypto just like you can on some of the other wallets, fiat wallets. If Apple Pay let I'm talking to my kids too much. Let you store Ethereum in your Apple Pay, and then you could use Ethereum or Immutable X to buy NFTs on marketplaces like VeVe, which are mobile first. That would be
by the way, Mal, just for the audience so they know, there is no token for Immutable X. You pay for transactions with Ethereum.
Okay.
So
they call them gems in VeVe. You buy gems and then you convert those gems. So you turn fiat into gems, which is probably wrapped ETH, named something different. Or something else, and then you can buy the art.
Yeah, when it was on the OMI chain, I don't even know if is that Rob? You do a quick. Let me do it so I don't keep on butchering what the actual chain is that they're using. But I just want to comment in general. I think that as a project, one of the things I do when I look to invest in projects is, okay, what is the product market fit when it first launches? And then what does it do 2 months later? I mean, does it stay stagnant or does it continue to improve? And I think VeVe has nailed it. I mean, with the way super easy customer interface, and then now they're transitioning to incorporate Ethereum security and leverage the layer 2 tech. I think, if you kind of follow their development and what they've done, I'm betting on them to really be a pioneer in the metaverse, right? I think that they're going to take their IP and their license agreements and they're going to move directly in there. And I think this is a company to watch.
Man, I love
GoChain. I apologize. Looks
like
GoChain. Yeah.
GoChain.
Yeah, it's called GoChain. I apologize to all the OMI folks out there. I didn't look before I started talking.
So we've been going for 30 minutes, but I want to spend just a couple minutes talking about this project that came into our radar. And once again, these are never endorsements. This is never ever financial advice. But so this crazy project, like it's kind of like Zed Run, but they're trying to bring like that 16-bit era concept with Zed Run. And it's these crypto raiders that that's not the one I want to share. That's the OpenSea. But these crypto raiders, it's kind of this project that came out of nowhere where they want to bring like the concepts of Zed Run, World of Warcraft raids, and like these pixel art pieces together to have like weekly dungeons, gear, and loot, and permanent death. And so like the characters are all going to have wearables. They're going to have
this is awesome.
Yeah, and
the old JRPGs. Or the old Japanese RPGs back in the day.
Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana.
Yes. Yeah.
So like for me, like I just picked one up this morning. It's a girl named I'll show you. But like and they're very cheap. But like the because of how the contracts are set up, they all start as base models, and then you can add wearables, items, and these types of things. And like the price on them, as I said, is like incredibly cheap. And once again, this could fail. It could take off. But when you think about like sorting it by price, and they're doing drops, and like it's not like the latest NFTs. Like they're just releasing a few at a time. It's 0.015 ETH, so it's like $35 with a little bit of gas. And they've got a strong roadmap. So for me, it's like really cool. In the secret Discord, everyone is having fun with Thick Tammy. Really fans of that one, where that one's selling pretty quickly and there's a lot of excitement about it. But when you think about the utility aspects, and Sophisticated came on and talked about like first it's the art, then it's the collectible, then it's the utility and the games. And I know there's a ton of games that came early from Avigachi and these other types of projects. But last night, what's really crazy, that's a strong signal for this project, and I'd love to have Sophisticated on in the near future, that someone from Andreessen Horowitz came in and was asking questions about this project. And there's still only like 300 or 400 people in this Discord right now. So it's like this is just a sleeper project that I think is going to have quite a bit of utility. And once again, the roadmap is a little bit aggressive. But when we think about the Luchadors project, and now they're turning that into a turn-based game, and we think about you can name your characters now, you can do all of these other types of things. I think that this is something that came out of nowhere, but is somewhat surprising in a good way. That's come on our radar. Once again, we're not saying go buy a bunch, but it is an interesting project to keep an eye on.
Let me ask you this, Malachi. What happened with the pickles? What is the pickle update, bro? You might have to change hats and be like, give me that.
Yeah, no, I mean, so here's the thing.
Here's the thing
this is one of the things
What happened?
I respect the hell out of Nick, because he could have made a ton of money, and he bought a bunch of pickles when it was 0.01, and he bought, I think, like 370 of them. Bought a pickle, like basically started a pickle DAO, knowing that like the rug is likely going to get pulled on this project. And he held and held and held. And the price went from, and I'm a paper hander. I'm still trying to make money off ETH. And I find that I'm making more money buying the floor of a lot of these projects. I bought a bunch of floor wizards and flipped them for like 0.03 ETH profit. But I did that like 15 times. And it started turning into, if you're making an extra $500 a day, very little effort, flipping these projects. It's a way to accumulate ETH pretty quickly to reinvest in bigger projects. But Nick bought all these pickles for 0.01. I bought 10 for 0.01.
Right.
I sold I accidentally sold one really cheap because I fat fingered it and it was gone immediately. I gave one to CNIG, who's in the secret Discord and finds a lot of projects early. He started promoting the pickle, or sorry, no, I gave him a hash demon. Sorry, not a pickle, but I started selling and I fat fingered the hash demon. There's so many projects. Anyway, 0.01 sold all of my pickles for 0.1 to 0.13 Ethereum. So I'm 10xing on these pickles that are
nice.
Like, it's an effing pickle. They're not promising anything. They're just saying, hey, this could be a rug pull. It could not, which could be a strong signal at the top. We don't know. But then they actually came out and created some
I saw them.
Art.
I looked at the pickles. I looked at them and I was like, they did it. And looks like they have categories. Looks like it's all set up. Correct.
Yeah, they have rarity. Like the number one pickle is
pickles.
Yeah.
What's the number one pickle right now? What's the number one?
It's on sale for 100 Ethereum.
What is that called? The golden pickle?
The golden pickle is on sale for but like that's the thing is like, they turned this project that they rewarded speculators with at least like it's good looking art, in my opinion, very subjective, but it's an interesting sign of where we're at right now. So I made money on pickles. Nick held. He bought more and has flipped some of those. But I don't think I could be wrong, but I don't think he sold any of his initial pickles in the pickle DAO, which, like, if you think about the math, there was enough demand to drive up the price 10x. He could have sold probably half of those without drawing too much attention. And he held strong. He kept to his word. And, there's in this private Discord, everyone is throwing these memes at him, like going down with the Titanic, like the band going down with the Titanic. But like the pickle price, I think, is still holding somewhat strong, because when you think about and Danny talked about this really well, like we're buying like the first generation of NFTs, right? So like people are going to be like, oh, did you have a pickle? And like people would rather have pickles than Yetis, which I wish the Yeti project would get better. But I mean, the floor pickle is still 0.03 and you picked it up for 0.01. So like it's a project that turned a profit. If everyone held their pickles and sold them now, they would be turning a decent profit. So people could say it's a failure, but it turned profit for collectors.
Very interesting. Very interesting. John, did you get a pickle?
No, I didn't get a pickle, but I tell you what, I woke up this morning, my little boy said, I want Chick-fil-A for breakfast. And then we got there, he said, I want some extra pickles in my chicken sandwich. I thought about the project. So it's got good brand awareness.
We need to get some of that pickle beer.
Cheers on that.
Shout out to Martin House.
So do we have anything else on the agenda? Anything else that's pretty neat?
We could go all day. Have you guys seen the beach dogs yet? I mean,
no, Mal, but I did see the stream yesterday where you talked about how the dogs, the big project you've been talking about, hyping up for weeks.
I'm not hyping it. Yeah, I'm just a big fan.
Dogs. That's your ape dogs, right?
Yeah, and like for me, like once again, we had the founders came on. They're in the UK. Shout out to Joff. And everyone over there that's working on this. He's not working on this project, but he's been a big help for the Nifty Culture channel. But like this one, I really like. They actually did something unprecedented. They actually took feedback from the community, delayed the launch, which in some people are like, if a launch is delayed, it's a death sentence. But it's better to get the launch right than mess it up. So I'm actually really, really proud of them. And they even lowered the minting count, where I know there's strong opinions where if we're thinking about the lifetime of NFTs, and once 1% of the US population is excited about NFTs, there's a lot more people involved, or 10%, like it's going to grow. There's enough volume to feed all those people. But what's really interesting is that they actually lowered to meet the current climate of the market. And so they're going to do 8,000 instead of 10,000, which is a lot, 20% less than a lot of the other projects that are minting right now. And they're keeping the price the same. So for me, the signs that they're taking feedback, they're not anonymous, they can't rug pull. The art is objectively, in my opinion, great. It's not a busy background. There's consistency. You can tell the rare traits from the non-rare traits. It's obvious, and it's priced at an affordable rate. And their roadmap is incredibly strong. They're giving you bone coin that allows you to rename your dog. Every day you own the dog, you get bone coin. Their roadmap is pretty strong too. So, that's the last thing I would talk about that's exciting for me. There's an elephant drop today. I don't know too much about it. If anyone has a link to the elephant drop, share it in the comments and we can talk about it. But I'm out of things to talk about.
Now this is a derivative of Bored Apes. Is that
everything? Well, everything's a derivative of CryptoPunks, but yeah.
Right, but I meant.
No, is this his own project or is this the minted ones from the?
Oh, this isn't the kennel dogs. No, this is its own project.
Okay. See, I was confused too. Okay. Yeah.
All right, we got 2 dog projects going then. Okay.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what's interesting is the Bored Ape Kennel Club, before those minted, and this is another thing that, we can go all day. So maybe we go into this and then wrap. But what's interesting is like the dogs or the apes did it first, right? So now you're getting airdropped this dog and you don't know what it looks like. It's going to be revealed at a later date. The floor on the dogs went to like 1.5 ETH, and the floor on the dogs now is like 0.7 ETH. So like your unknown dog is more valuable than your known dog, because once the rarities came out, people self-sorted, and not many people are going to want to own a kennel dog without owning an ape. So the total pool of people that would even want to buy it drops dramatically. And they meant it as a reward for their community, which is good. But the Meebits did the same thing with the CryptoPunks. And what's challenging right now is the Gutter Cats are doing one. The Bulls are doing one now. So now it feels a lot like March and April on Nifty Gateway, where if you sold too many faces, for instance, if you buy 4 faces, you can burn them. And then Mad Dog Jones didn't burn them, but he was buying back the floor of his cats. We saw a lot of other burn mechanics. Dot Pigeon had a burn when Dot Pigeon didn't even need a burn. And so we're seeing a mechanic that's introduced that all of a sudden starts being overused. So now we're seeing the apes, who were first, launch this project, and now all these other derivatives of the apes have to try and keep their floor maintained. They have to hint that you're going to get airdropped another NFT if you hold it, which drives this initial spike, and then the price is falling across all of these projects now. And so find projects you love. Don't buy them. Don't speculate them. Otherwise, I think in the near future, a lot of people are going to get burned. But what else is really interesting is like Dot Pigeon is either going into Sotheby's or Christie's, which is really exciting.
Yeah, I'd say that, for anybody that's kind of similar to me in terms of, we take more of a wait and watch approach and really only buy things you really like. Over the next 6 months, you're going to see which projects actually continue to develop and launch new use cases for their collectibles. And you don't necessarily need to be first. You just need to watch the community that comes around, because it's one thing to have a bunch of folks that are pumping and shilling, but it's another thing to have developers. Like if you have a community of developers that form around your collectible, guess what? They all want the value to increase. They're all going to develop for that collectible, and that's where you want to be. Those are the projects you want to be involved in.
Yeah, like CryptoPunks, right, John?
Yeah. Obviously CryptoPunks have got some OG. The CryptoPunks is a little bit different because at this point, even if they don't have developers, they've kind of solidified their spot. It doesn't matter anymore. It's just everybody wants one. And
come on, Jay-Z. Come on, we could have had them all, John.
All of them, if it weren't for John telling them it was a scam and don't buy.
You see, Jay-Z even has it, man. That's awesome.
I know. I feel terrible. So cool. I feel terrible. So for everybody, Rob was going to own like all of them. He was ready to go gangbusters and buy them all. And I'm like, Rob, don't do it. It's a total.
I just thought it was such a beautiful I thought it was just such a beautiful OG project. I'm like, it's the original OG, and it looks cool. I loved it. No, it's cool. Yeah. Sorry. Is that all we got today, Mal? Anything else, man?
I think
hey, I'll end on this, man. I think we saw a stream a couple days ago from some Bitcoin maxis in our group and the folks that work with us, and I'm going to do a rebuttal stream. So if anybody wants to tune into that, I'm just going to pick that whole stream apart one by one, talk about, you know, what I don't agree with. So that should be pretty fiery. And
that's entertaining.
I would. A couple weeks.
I'll see that. I like that.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. I can't wait. And John's going to be hopping on more to provide some technical analysis on altcoins, the NFTs, and hopefully him and Mike can do some cool stuff. But, you know, hey, everyone, like, thank you for tuning in. I'm shocked this many people came on. We just wanted to say, hey, VeVe is awesome. There's a lot going on. But everyone have a safe, if you're in the United States, have a safe holiday. Don't blow your hand up. If you're overseas and watching, thank you for tuning in. You know, this is the most fun I've had on a project in a long time. So thank you.
Awesome, guys. Thanks, Malachi. Thanks, John.
Adios.
Thanks, everybody.